So now we are going to go on with the phrases. I was saying that the man is a phrase because it is a group of words with a head that is man, so it is a noun phrase. Was dancing is a verb phrase, and my brother is a noun phrase also. So let's look at phrases here. We've got types of phrases. So a phrase is a string of words that behaves as a constituent, that is to say as a whole, and has a head as its principal element. We distinguish noun phrases. The man is a noun phrase. Verb phrases, was dancing is a verb phrase. Adjective phrases, very good is an adjective phrase. Prepositional phrases, what was the prepositional phrase we had here? No, we don't. In the room is a prepositional phrase, and an adverb phrase, very slowly is an adverb phrase, or adverbial phrases, we are going to call them in this subject. So here we've got types of phrases, but you've got them written here. I mean, what I've just told you, but it's written here. We've got examples of noun phrases, prepositional phrases, adjective phrases, adverb phrases, and verb phrases. Good. Then we've got words. The next layer in the rank is word. So what can we say about words? What are words? Words are the smallest unit in syntax. And so here we've got more about words. What are words? Words are generally considered to be the basic elements of language. They clearly show up in writing, because when we are speaking, we don't make a difference between one word and the other if we are speaking fluently. This is what happens to us when we are listening to somebody speaking in a language that we don't know. We can't distinguish when a word finishes and the other one starts. But when we read, yes, it is possible to see that. So, and they are defined, and they are the items defined in dictionaries. Yet the definition of word is not simple. Words are relatively fixed in their internal form, but they are independent in their role in larger units. For example, insertions can usually be made between words, but not within words. For example, there are two pedal bins against the wall. There were two large new pedal bins standing against the side wall. Notice how, in the above example, it is possible to insert words between other words to form longer sentences without losing clarity of meaning. On the other hand, we could not easily interrupt a word by inserting another word or morpheme inside it, as in pedal new bins. It is not possible to break a word because a word is a unit that is unbreakable, but we can add suffixes and prefixes. There are three major families of words. There are lexical words. For example, when we have nouns, adjectives, adverbs, verbs, they are words that carry meaning, that carry information. If I tell you house, you can immediately imagine what a house is. You know what I am referring to. But if I say in, no. Why not? Because in is a function word. You're going to read the rest of the explanations on your own, but they are function words. What are function words? Function words can be categorized in terms of word classes, such as prepositions, coordinators, auxiliary verbs, and pronouns. They usually indicate meaning relationship and help us to interpret units containing lexical words by showing how the units are related to each other. If I say man, girl, you know what I am referring to. They are lexical words. If I say man and girl, the function word and is helping me link these two lexical words. Function words belong to closed classes, which have a very limited and fixed membership. For example, English has only 4 coordinators: and, or, but, nor. Individual function words tend to occur frequently and in almost any type of text. I'm going to go back to closed classes in a short time. So, inserts, what are inserts? Inserts are found mainly in spoken language. They don't form part of the syntactic structure, that is to say, we are not going to analyze them in sentences. And they are often marked off by a break in intonation or by a punctuation mark in writing. For example, well, we made it. Well, yeah, bye, cheers. Yes, all those are inserts. Let's go back to closed classes. What are two closed classes and open classes? Function words are closed classes. Why? Because closed classes of words. Because there are a certain number of function words, but there won't be others. That is to say, it's not a set that is open for new words. The prepositions have always been what they are. They are some that are not used anymore, but there are not new prepositions. There are not new conjunctions. There are no new pronouns. But when we talk about open classes, we talk about classes, lexical words that can accept new words. For example, when we say Google, to Google, Google is a new word and it didn't exist 20 years ago, but now it's an everyday word. Why? Because it is a verb, or it is a verb and it is a noun. And it has been incorporated in the language, so much so that it has been incorporated in every language in the world, I think. It is an open class. Nouns are an open class. Verbs are an open class. Adverbs are an open class. And adjectives also are an open class. There can be new adjectives. So we've got open and closed class of words. Let's go back to the 5 grammatical units. We talked about already sentences, we talked about clauses, we talked about phrases, we talked about words and its classifications, and lastly, we need to talk about morphemes. What are morphemes? Morphemes are the smallest unit of meaning. You know that phonemes are the smallest unit of sound. Morphemes are the smallest unit of meaning. So let's look at morphemes more closely. Morphemes, lexical words can consist of a single morpheme or a stem. For example, when I talk about, for example, conscious. Conscious, the word conscious. Conscious is a word that is a stem. That is to say, it is a stem, it can be called a stem or root. La raíz, what we call la raíz in Spanish. So it can be independent. What we have here, lexical word can consist of a single morpheme. Conscious is a single morpheme. A stem such as go, bull, cat, or they can have a more complex structure created by a process of inflection, derivation, or compounding. What is this? When we've got a word like conscious, or we've got a word like walk. I can change these words. So, for example, I say I walk, but he walks, and I added one S. And that S marks the third person singular. If I've got book and I add one S, that S marks the plural. So these words have changed through derivation. These words have changed through inflection. That is to say, I added a morpheme, the morpheme third person singular, the morpheme plural, in order to fit the context that I need. But the word remains the same. This goes on being a verb, and this goes on being a noun. Let's look at this. Inflection. Lexical words can take inflectional suffixes. What are suffixes? Morphemes that are added to the word at the end of the word, to signal meanings and roles which are important to their word classes, such as plural in the case of nouns, past tense in the case of verbs. The following word classes are marked by inflection. For example, boy, boys, live, lived, dark, darker, the darkest, soon, sooner. So these are changes that were made or happened through inflection. Derivation, like inflection, usually involves adding an affix. What are affixes? Affixes may be a prefix or a suffix. A prefix before the word, a suffix after the word. All of them, prefix and suffix, are called affix. So, what we've got here in derivation is derivation like inflection usually involves adding an affix. That is to say, a morpheme attached to the beginning of the word, a prefix, or to the end of the word, a suffix. However, this process is different from inflection because inflection does not change the identity of the word. That is to say, it remains the same lexeme. While derivation creates new nouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs, derivation changes the meaning of the word class of a word, and often both. The meaning of the word class of the word, and often both, and in effect creates a new base form for the word. So when we've got here conscious, unconscious changes the meaning, and unconsciously changes the word class, because from an adjective it became an adverb. So this is derivation. We've got prefixes, ex-president, for example, or reread or abroad. Suffixes, boy plus hood, boyhood. Central plus eyes becomes a verb, centralize. All right, in the next video we are going to go